have an excellent program for you tonight. Our speakers will take approximately about 8 minutes. We do have 4 speakers because we have a wonderful addition to the program. I'm going to start the introductions this evening, but before I do, I have to thank a few people. And I want to thank especially our Vice Chair, Link Cummings, and John Richardson, who worked on this program, John working on the catering. We want to thank Wildflower Caterers, who provided the wonderful meal we just were able to partake of, and Link and John. As usual, we also want to thank our Arlington Television Community Television crew from AIM Arlington Independent Media, who are joining us this evening and who are taping this program. So if you enjoy what you hear and you want others to hear about what we're doing, please make sure you tell them to watch on community television for the rebroadcast of this show. And we do also put our programs in the Virginia room at the Arlington County Library. So you can always check out what we're doing here at the Committee of 100. And then finally, I'd like to also give a special thanks. This room, just to give you a little bit of an idea, the last time I was here did not look anything like it does right now. Typically, SOC Enterprises uses this as a workroom. So when I was here last, there were work tables and there were boxes of papers and stacks of projects that they were working on, and they totally transformed the room, including the print shop. We want to thank SOC Enterprises for giving us the decorations. They printed and posted all of the photographs, which are not normally part of this room. I hope they'll keep them up because they did a great job. And we also want to just thank SOC for all of their hospitality, including the plants on the table. They went down to the detail. Our field trip has definitely been a wonderful opportunity. I'm going to introduce our first speaker. That is Linda Chandler, who is the CEO of SOC Enterprises. She became the CEO in 2009, and prior to that, she served in executive positions with the Goodwill Greater Washington, the American Society for Association Executives, and the National Association of Manufacturers. Linda has done an amazing job, I think, growing SOC and its program, and as you'll hear tonight, from the time she came on board to now, the program has really expanded and the vision has expanded to recognize that these issues are not bounded only by Northern Virginia and the needs in Arlington, but really across the metro area and the greater United States, because I do believe SOC Enterprises should be a model to what every community can and will be offering in the future if they pay any attention. So I look forward, and I'll start the evening with Linda. Thank you.
Okay, Patrick, you can start your timer right now. I am Linda Chandler, and I want to welcome you to SOC Enterprises. We are delighted to host you tonight. It's a great honor. I received a phone call from Mady Green a few months ago, and she said, "Do you think that maybe you would you be interested?" And Mady, thank you very much for this great opportunity. We really appreciate this. So I get to do what I enjoy doing every day, and that is talk about helping people with disabilities to find jobs. And it is the passion of every one of the staff that are here tonight and the others that work with us every day. So we're delighted to be able to tell you more about how we do it and how similar organizations to ours do it all across the country. But first, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize that we have the chairman of our board here with us tonight, Jennifer Murphy. Jennifer, if you would stand. And I'm really honored that 3 of our other board members are here to join us tonight. One of them is probably well known to many of you, Bill Sullivan. Bill, who's been active with the high school students with disabilities in the Arlington school system for many, many years, and now is sharing his talents and experiences with us. Also, Stephanie Hamlet Stevens, who is also on our board. Mady. Did I miss anybody? Yes. Okay. So thanks again. What I want to do first is describe the world in which we work every day. It's a world in which 75% of people with disabilities are unable to work only because they can't find jobs. It is a place where certain organizations like Ability One, that you'll be hearing from shortly, are making inroads, and in their 2009 annual report noted that they've helped 124,000 people to get jobs, and part of those people work here at SOC. But there are so many others that are at home because they don't have the opportunity to have work. Sometimes there's a subtle discrimination that prevents people from getting jobs because people are afraid of what it'll take to have an employee that has a disability, or they are uncertain how their fellow employees might be impacted. I want to give you a real example, and we have an employee that works at our fulfillment center out in Herndon, and it is an Ability One contract, so it's a great job for him. But he came to our board meeting a few months ago to tell his story, and what he told was that he called and did phone interviews, and because he has a very warm and engaging voice, he was invited often to come to a second interview that was a face-to-face interview. Deshaun is in a wheelchair, and he found that somehow the second interview, face-to-face, never brought him that job. So after many, many tries, he found SOC, and he's a very valued employee and does a great job at our call center, answering the phones and directing people to resources that they need. He's just one of those examples of people that want to work, and we certainly benefit from having him as our employee. Over the years, the Arlington Committee of 100 has helped this community with creative solutions to enhancing the quality of life for the people who live in Arlington County. So tonight I want to give you a brief overview of what we do and organizations like us do, and hope it's food for thought for what the Arlington community can do to help people with disabilities to have more job opportunities. And not only for them to have it, but for Arlington to benefit from that. Our founders were your fellow citizens. They started this organization 52 years ago. They were parents who had children with disabilities in the Arlington public school system, and they wanted their children to have job opportunities. And they wanted them to be able to do things beyond janitorial work or food service. So they began SOC, and from that has grown an organization that employs about 270 people, of which about 220 are people with disabilities. What we do to support that is that we have three ways or three options that people with disabilities can find employment. The first one is our supported employment, and as Cecilia noted, it is usually this room, which is a large workroom in which they do a lot of hand assembly. The hand assembly is a result of the fact that we run a printing operation, a copying operation, and we have a mailing operation. So the people that work here are helped by funding that comes from Arlington County through the Arlington Community Services Board and Arlington Health and Human Services. We support their employment by providing rehab specialists and work supervisors that help them to be able to work. And the pride that they have every day and every 2 weeks when they get a paycheck is palpable. The second way that we offer employment is through our federal contracts that Becky's going to be talking about, the Ability One contracts. These are jobs that about 120 of our employees have. They are very good jobs, good paying jobs with benefits, and they are an important part of how we help people with disabilities to find sustainable work. The third way we do it is interacting with your community. We place people in jobs in the community. Here again, we are supported by the Community Services Board and Health and Human Services to be a matchmaker for someone who needs a job and find employers that can be of help to identify a job that there's a match. We have 2 programs there, and one of them is a program that is helping veterans who have service-related disabilities, many of whom are recently returned from overseas. And we are working with about 55 veterans right now in that program, and we've placed about 20 of them in jobs in our community. So here's another way that we can work together to help people to find job opportunities. We also work through Arlington County with the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, TANF program, and we assist needy families to get the services they need so that they can stabilize their families and find job opportunities. So helping vets and helping families are an important part of the job matching that we do. The biggest challenge that we have will not be a surprise to you. It's funding. And just like other nonprofits in our community, we've been affected by the economy, by the tight funding in the county and federal budgets, and we know that it stretches all of the nonprofits, and every year it's a little bit more stretch. So what are these nonprofits doing? Well, some of them are giving desperate pleas for your charitable giving. Some of them are lowering their staff salaries or cutting back on staff. Some of them have had to lower the quality of the services they're providing to the community, and some of them have gone out of business. So what is SOC doing? We are trying to expand our opportunities and our services, and we have a goal of placing an additional 15% of people with disabilities in jobs every year. So over 2 years, that will allow us to double the capacity. The other thing that we're doing is that we recently found out about a nonprofit that could not continue. They were a small nonprofit doing great work and having a great staff doing that work, but they just couldn't make it with just the fee funding that they were getting from various county programs. And so we consolidated them into our organization, and we're able to expand their services combined with ours. The other things that we're doing are trying to expand our commercial business, like our fulfillment business and our printing operations. And in doing that, we are very much a beneficiary of the Arlington County Economic Development Program that helps nonprofits to improve their capacity. So we have a year-long grant of consulting to help us to find a new business to begin working with, that we can employ people with disabilities and also be self-sustaining. Another thing that we're doing is trying to get more federal contracts through Ability One and commercial contracts. All of those will provide more jobs. So here's really my message. What can Arlington do to help people with disabilities? And I think there are two things that you can ponder. One is that I'm very impressed. I'm in Leadership Arlington and getting ready to graduate. And I've learned a lot about our 10-year program to end homelessness, and very impressed with the progress that they have made in stabilizing families that are in need and helping them to provide for housing for them. But what's next? They need jobs. And I think it's time for the community to say to the people working in the homeless area, let's focus now on jobs. How can we get jobs for these people? And community organizations like ours can help. We know how to do exactly that. And we have staff that are ready to help in that area. I think it would be a great challenge for us to end homelessness with people having jobs. The second thing that I think that we all can do is to help find jobs. All of you are either employers, no employers, have opportunities to talk to people in the community. And we need those employers to help us and to overcome the hidden discriminations that people with disabilities have. So you can be a voice for us and a voice for solving this issue in our community. And guess what? We'll all benefit. The employers will really benefit. At SOC, we really know that there is a strength in providing people jobs. We see every day the pride that comes with people having a job and overcoming whatever challenge they have. And we also see that there's a new sense of identity and pride in those employees. That means they're loyal workers. They are very energized and motivated workers, and they contribute and enrich the environment that they work in. So one of the things I wanted you to do tonight is to hear from one of our employees and to hear his story. And so I'm delighted that Abdullah Nouri is here, and he works in one of our fulfillment centers and does a great job. We are so blessed at having him at SOC. And so Abdullah, would you come up and share your story with us?
I'd be glad to, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Abdullah Nouri, and I work under Mr. Sandy Grossman as my project manager at the AHRQ Agency of Health Research and Quality at Herndon. I've been 17 years with SOC. I've been working for the past 17 years with SOC. How I started is a long story, but I will make it brief for you. I was living in Alexandria, and I was having setbacks continuously. I'm mentally disabled, and there were so many challenges and setbacks, and I was introduced by the Alexandria Mental Health to SOC. I was so afraid, and I was confused. I was not feeling good, but I was welcomed warmly in this company, and they had rehab counselors on our contracts, and they helped me out how to hold on to the job, how to be trained, and how to learn, and how to proceed, and how to follow instructions. And with the SOC's help, I did that, and I lasted. And my life changed totally. I cannot beat mental illness, but I can manage it with therapy, with medication, and with financial security. And that financial security comes from my job and my paycheck every 2 weeks. And I owe that to SOC to appreciate it, that I live. And I got married when I was in SOC, and the first thing my wife told me, you better have a good job so you can support me and your daughter. And here I am. I've been in 3 contracts. I've been with the Patent and Trademark Office. When that contract was over, we became a subcontractor with Reed Technology, and after Reed Technology, we became part of AHRQ. And the most amazing thing for me was that in transition between the contracts, we then had 1 day to be unemployed. And that was the SOC's good job that didn't leave us down and then make us unemployed or laid off for 1 day. That's amazing. And I can tell you a little bit about our job at the AHRQ. At the AHRQ, we are working for the Health and Human Services Department, and we are distributing their health and research publications all over the United States, and also we are international. We distribute and send and mail to foreign countries also publications for health and research and quality. We are very busy and very productive, and under Sandy Grossman as my project manager, I have all the feedback and support and clear instructions how to do my job. And he always makes my job easier, and he always has been a good mentor for me. I appreciate that. And also my manager, Mr. Mani Sharma, is helping me out. And I have a great team. I'm a team leader, and I have a great team, and there are people with disabilities in my team that they are doing such a good job that I am sure that my superiors are looking more at their abilities, not at their disabilities, although they are very considerate of their condition. I am very blessed that I'm standing in here today in front of all of you, and I encourage all the volunteers and people involved to help SOC in a wonderful mission. Helping people with disability is a great, great mission, and it will always will be noticed. It makes a big difference when you have responsibility, when you can hold on to a job and you can pay your bills and you're not dependent. Before SOC, I was on SSI, Social Security income, and I was on food stamp, and I was living in a group home. After SOC, I got my first apartment with my wife, and then eventually, you better believe it, we bought our first townhouse. Oh, my goodness. And that's the American dream come true. And I couldn't do it without SOC and SOC's support. And what we do at AHRQ is we are getting orders from the call center, printed via the computer. They could be a single line item or a multiple line item with quantities designated. We very carefully monitor the ticket order, and we physically build it up, and we ship it via FedEx, UPS, and US Postal Service all over the US and foreign countries. It's a great opportunity. It's a great job. I have a lot of support from my superiors, and I have a lot of cooperation from my team, and I'm very proud of each one of them. I want to thank you, Ms. Chandler, for this opportunity, and everybody present in here, and I wish you all the best, and I hope that you continue helping and supporting SOC so you can help people like me. It makes a big difference. Thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you so much, Abdullah, for being with us and
You're
sharing
welcome.
that.
Thank
And I want to recognize Sandy Grossman, who is his supervisor and runs the place where they work. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share.
As promised, a wonderful program, right? Well, now we move to the county's part of this subject and topic. Our second speaker is Cynthia Kemp, who is the Arlington Community Services Board Executive Director, and she's the Division Chief for the Behavioral Health Care Division. So she's going to talk to us now about Arlington County's support and role.
Those of you who know me know I've never said anything in 8 minutes in my whole life. So I'm going to rise to the challenge today and try to do that. I've been asked to talk about the Community Services Board. So to take a little bit of a broader view and then narrow it down a little bit and talk about a couple of unique employment programs. When people say, I'm with the Community Services Board, they mean one of two things. They mean I'm actually on the board itself, the Board of Citizens, who are a group of very dedicated people who are appointed by the county board. That's actually in the Code of Virginia that we have to have this Community Services Board, and it's a terrific idea, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But this Board of Citizens ensures that the services in Arlington are of very high quality. And this is something that the General Assembly did many, many years ago, I think 40 or 50 years ago, because they realized that some people with disabilities really don't have a voice. And this board is their voice in the community. So there's the board itself, this 18-member citizen board, and it varies. It varies in terms of members across the state. Some jurisdictions have 9 members. Arlington went all the way to the max and has 18 members. The board itself, or if someone says, I'm with the Community Services Board, they could be talking about the services, either receiving services or providing the services. So let me start a little bit by talking about the services that we do indeed have in Arlington. The Community Services Board oversees or provides services for people with mental health, intellectual disabilities, and substance abuse disorders in the county. These are publicly funded services, local dollars, state dollars, federal dollars. We have some client fees, we get some grants, but basically it's public funding. And these people have to meet some eligibility criteria. And it's basically on level of disability and income. The services that we provide really start with an assessment. Who is this individual? Who are they as a person? And what do they need? And from there, they generally get a case manager. And a case manager is that key cog in the middle of the wheel who ensures that this individual, they know what's happening with this individual, and that they get a variety of services based on who that person is. And those services can be counseling. They can be a team of individuals like our jail diversion team who work very hard with the police and the courts and the attorneys and the magistrates to keep people with mental health, intellectual disabilities, and substance abuse out of the jail. People who are having a mental health crisis are often, or have in the past, it doesn't happen very much anymore in Arlington, are picked up because they're having a mental health crisis. They're on somebody's lawn. They're thinking that they're going to receive a message from God from the satellite dish. The individual's lawn this is doesn't like this very much and calls the police. The police come. They say, move along. The individual doesn't want to move along because they're waiting for a message from God, and you can see how this goes. They're trespassing, they are resisting arrest, and in jail they go, and really this is a mental health issue. We do discharge planning from the state facilities, the training centers for people with intellectual disabilities, and the state psychiatric facilities for people who have mental health issues. We provide residential services. We don't provide them any directly by the county because we have wonderful vendors out there who do a very good job, and so we contract with them for a variety of housing options. We have day support. We have 24/7 emergency services, so anybody who's experiencing a mental health crisis in Arlington, we have staff available to come to you, or it can be brought to us to assess that individual and then provide the appropriate care. We have psychiatric services, which is doctors and nurses, because oftentimes people need medication. We have staff in the juvenile detention facilities and in the adult detention facilities. We now have primary care because many of our folks are very ill physically and need to have primary care, but don't have very poor access to care or no access to care. So we have that actually on site. And last but not least, we have employment. And again, we have wonderful vendors, including SOC, who provide terrific services, and so we contract out most of our services. Every jurisdiction in the state of Virginia is required to have both a board of dedicated citizens and services. And here in Arlington, we have one board and one set of services. As you move further out in Virginia, you have, like in the Lynchburg area, Lynchburg doesn't have the Lynchburg Community Services Board. It's the Central Virginia Community Services Board because it's Lynchburg and it's all the surrounding towns and counties in Central Virginia. So as you get smaller, some of these have bonded together to have the Community Services Board and the services. And what I do in Arlington is a lot of strategic planning because it's very critical that we understand who the people we serve are, what are their needs, and how best can we serve them. So I'm the first to tell you that it isn't perfect. We have a lot of work to do. Some programs like the jail diversion program that I spoke about are very far along. Employment is very far along, and other places we're really doing some more work. But one of my favorite sayings is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And I do not want to end up with all the staff behind me in some place where we didn't intend to be. So we look at who are the individuals that are coming to us, who is out there that could be coming to us who isn't, what are their needs, what resources do we have right now that we can reallocate based on best practice and evidence-based practice services, because there are treatments and services out there with excellent outcomes that do work if you apply them. So we look at those and we bring them in and apply them to what we do, reallocate what we have, because you never want to get asked for more if you've got a lot right there. So we do that. And then you can see where the gaps are, and then we look for additional funding. Let me talk just briefly about a couple of employment programs, since that's the topic of the night. We do have a program called the Job Avenue, which is a very unique program. It is a public-private partnership. So the county has some staff that they put in this program, and then we contract with an employment vendor for staff, deployed staff, who actually come on site into the county. They get county badges. They're treated like county staff, even though they're not our staff. And they become part of the Job Avenue team. And what their job is to, I have 2 minutes, okay, is to assess individuals and determine what jobs do they really want. Many of the people who have mental health and substance abuse problems, behavioral health issues, have gone to college. They had started a career, and then they became ill, or they got into drugs or alcohol, and they want to go back to be a nurse or in the medical field or an administrator or whatever it is that they want. And so the Job Avenue assesses them and then helps match them to an individual job in the community. And this isn't rocket science. SOC does this, other programs do this, other vendors do this, and it's called individual supported employment. But what makes it unique is this public-private partnership of 5 or 6 staff who go out into the community, develop the jobs, place people on the jobs, provide the job coaching, and encourage people. And the uniqueness of it is it's connected in with case management. So if the job coach sees that there's something very unusual going on, they're part of the case management treatment team and come back and talk to the case manager, who then may assess the person for escalating psychiatric issues. The other employment program that I wanted to talk about just briefly is also very unique. And this is one of the first of its kind. It is a completely consumer-run program. And it's called the Peer Internship Program. And actually, one of your members, Scott Brannon, is the president of the Peer Internship Program. And this is a program, we've got some funding from the state and from Arlington, and we contract with the Peer Internship Program to provide employment services for people with very serious mental illness. And they do a terrific job. They served 10 or 15 people in the first year, and they're well into their second year, and they're almost up to 20 people served this year. The satisfaction is extremely high. with my 1 minute left, I'm going to talk about the Job Avenue, because what they did is in 2005, they served 95 people. They retooled the program to make it much more intensive and much more focused on the individual. And last year, in 2010, they served 289 people. There's very high satisfaction with the service. The cost per person went down once we retooled the program. And there's something, SAMHSA, Health and Human Services, the SAMHSA department has something called a Support Employment Fidelity Scale, and they are at 92% out of 100% of the employment scale. So anyway, some very unique programs that fit into the broad overview of the Community Services Board and what we do in Arlington. And I actually have some brochures about the Community Services Board, and I have an annual report that tells you a little bit about who we are, what we do, and who we serve. So they're up at the table if you'd like to take them at the end. Thank you very much for having me.
The time does go by very quickly. Our final speaker is Becky Wright-Breeze. Becky works for an organization called NISH, and she also has the PowerPoint slides at your table. So I don't know if she's going to use them as she talks about her program, but if you want to have the actual PowerPoints, I think she's going to have them up here, and then you can look at them afterwards. This NISH program is where, I'm probably saying the acronym wrong, but it's where the Ability One program that we've heard about tonight is housed. So I look forward, and I'm sure you look forward to hearing more about that. Becky.
Well, it's tough to be the last person before everybody can go out and get a second cookie on their way out the door, but I'll do my best to try and keep it moving here. The Ability One program is a federal employment and procurement program. Some of the things that are done under Ability One, we provide products and services to the federal government on a contractual basis. And some of the things that we're doing when people say, what can people with disabilities do, or what can people with lots of different abilities do, here's just a quick kind of aha that I think really captures people's attention. Under the Ability One program, we're doing the shipboard provisioning for the Navy. When I did this slide, the Pacific Fleet, but in reality, we did such a good job with the Pacific Fleet that they kicked out the Alaska Native Corporation that was doing the Atlantic Fleet, and we're also doing the Atlantic Fleet starting this year. We sew the internment flags for the Veterans Administration. The Ability One program manufactures all the ChemBio suits for our warfighter with a zero defect tolerance, because nobody wants a ChemBio suit that doesn't work. We operate the full Department of Public Works for Fort Bliss, Polk, and Dix, and for your local community. I just did a walkthrough this morning at the Mark Center, and the Ability One program is going to be providing the full BOSS and facilities operating support for that new building off of Seminary Road. Not the transportation. We're not responsible for the transportation, just the building facilities. We're the secure mailroom vendor of choice for the Department of Homeland Security, and we operate one of the 6 top fleets in the United States of a federal fleet at Fort Riley. The mission is to provide employment for people with disabilities by the manufacture and delivery of products and goods for the federal government. The original law, go ahead to the next slide, David. The original law was called JWOD, Javits Wagner O'Day. The committee, and I'll give you a plumbing diagram in a quick second here, switched the name of the program to an actual program name instead of the law. Our law is actually on Capitol Hill even as we speak. We are trying to modernize. The last time the legislation was looked at was in the mid-70s. Clearly, procurement and rehabilitation has changed a lot since 1974. And so eventually it's not going to be Javits, Wagner, and O'Day. It'll be Flotsam, Jetsam, and whoever. So we went to Ability One. We are a priority procurement source under the FAR, and once we go through an administrative process, the government decides they want to use us as their acquisition strategy. We complete that process. It ends up on something called the procurement list. We fondly call it the PL, and then we actually are a mandatory source for purchase from the federal government. A few statistics after I show you the plumbing. I'm very visual. Once I kind of see how it works, then it's easier for me to understand. Of course, we always start with the president, but the Committee for Purchase are actually presidential appointees. There's 15 of them. Don't cover up the committee. They're very important. Okay. 4 are private citizens, and other are federal officials that have day jobs and do this as kind of other job duties as may be assigned. The committee staff is in Crystal City, and they are actually appointed or appropriated fund individuals. So that's a government entity. And then NIB and NISH are the 2 central nonprofit agencies under this program, and we were developed by the law and the Code of Federal Regulations that set up the program. And NIB works with the National Industries for the Blind, folks who are visually impaired and blindness, and NISH has all the other significant disabilities. Underneath of us, or kind of in partnership with us, are not-for-profit agencies. We also call them CRPs, Community Rehabilitation Programs. And we have, if we move on to the next slide, we have over 2,000 available nonprofit organizations like SOC, and I don't know if April's still with us, but Mount Vernon Lee is another one of our local organizations, was in the room. We have 21 million potential employees. We have 600 producing vendors, so 600 companies like SOC that are producing goods and services, and this is just on the NISH side, it's not on the NIB side, for the federal government under this program. And we have pretty close to 3,000 Ability One contracts that are currently being performed. The Department of Defense, clearly our largest customer, both on products and services. We operate in approximately 1,000 locations with over 40 government agencies, including all 50 states, Guam and Puerto Rico. I kind of wish Puerto Rico was in my region, but I'm the East region. I just have Virginia up through. Is that my bell? Is my 8 minutes up? You didn't ding for the other people. Jeez, it's a tough room. Yeah. Our NPAs, like SOC, although they perform under the Ability One program, they also perform for state and local government and commercial contracts, and they employ over 124,000 people. And these are FY09 statistics, so I'm pretty sure that's gone up. And we have over 41,000 people with disabilities that are serving on Ability One contracts, and over 25,000 that have been placed in community jobs in the supported employment programs that Linda and the others have described. I did pull Virginia. I couldn't get all the way down to Arlington. Probably has something to do with my personal abilities to search in our database as opposed to the database system, but I did get to Virginia. So the number of Ability One workers, you have about almost $34 million in wages being paid to persons with disabilities under Ability One in the state, and about 166 million in goods and services, 22 producing NPAs in Virginia. Clearly, Virginia, benefits from being close to the head shed here in Washington, D.C., but you have a significant presence actually throughout the entire state of Virginia. I think the value, and I've been doing this, I was talking to Patrick out in the food line, actually more years than I care to admit to in a room this size, but I would say more than 30. And years ago, we had trouble convincing people that a person with a disability could clean a toilet or weed a flower bed. Today, we are operating call centers, help desks, we're operating third-party logistics, we're operating full departments of public works on Army garrisons and installations. It just is an amazing thing. The field of rehabilitation and people with disabilities is ever-changing. We have the challenges of autism facing us. We have challenges of wounded warriors. Many of the wounds for our wounded warriors are not the photo snaps that you see of missing limbs. There's an awful lot of PTSD, mental health, brain concussive brain injury. These are very earth-shattering and life-altering events, and these really kind of cream of the crop young men and women who were physically fit and had so much going, and their life has been totally altered. It's programs like Ability One, your community service boards, your nonprofit organizations. Our federal government, our state government, everybody does what they can. But I am here to tell you, in those 30 years of watching, an awful lot of people drop between the cracks. Bless their heart, our Veterans Administration, I hope there's nobody who's an administrator from the Veterans Administration here, but it's a tough job. And it's made exponentially tougher because of our last set of circumstances over the last 10 years. There's an awful lot of need out there. I've seen it change, but I've never seen the need diminish in 30 years of having worked with this group. So you can network, you can provide political influence, you can put your heads together and come up with creative solutions. We do have legislative Ability One champions, so your federal elected representatives, you can, next time you have a town hall, ask them if they're an Ability One champion or not. That's always a fun question to ask in a town hall, and see if they know what you're talking about or whether their staffer has to make a mad dash out the door to figure out what that is. We really appreciate it. If it wasn't for the community groups and us all kind of picking up and helping one another, that's what America's great for and great about. And it's organizations like this, grassroots organizations, that make the difference. So I'm happy. I do have a brochure called Empowerment Through Employment, and also a solutions brochure which kind of describes all the goods and services under the program. They're up here, and I'll be around for a little while. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to stay and answer them. Did I do it? All right.
Well, Becky, I hope you know that we also ask our speakers to be on the hook for a few questions, and we do have a few minutes before our time is up. And so if there are some questions, I believe we have Lynn carrying the mic tonight, and do we have another person carrying the mic? I'm not sure who else, so let Lynn get the mic, and Charlie will let you ask the first question, if you can get the mic and speak into it. And we'll ask a few questions, and then as the mic's coming forward, remember, the questions are have to be in the form of questions, not statements, and we'll keep the answers short so we can get to several of them.
Hi, I'm Charles Rinker. I want to make a short statement so I can ask the question. And with Arlington New Directions Coalition has had SOC publish, collate, and mail our newsletters since 2000. And I don't know, that must be 30 newsletters by now. We do 2 or 3 a year. And it's always been, done well, gets out in good time, and quite frankly, when we looked around, it was as good a price as any place else, and in some ways better than any place else. So we've been very pleased. Given that background, my question is, what about Arlington County in terms of their printing and mailing and so forth, and even the state in terms of mailing and that kind of services? Do you have contracts, or do you get newsletters or whatever the county's putting out to print and collate and mail? And if not, maybe some of us can help you, get some of that, work.
Well, first, thank you very much for the compliments, and thank you to my staff for the good work that they do in the printing area. We do try to get those kinds of contracts, and we would appreciate all the help we could get in doing that. There, is an endless opportunity for us to do printing, and we have the people that can do a good job, and people with disabilities that can be employed by it. So we would love your help, all of your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Gail, actually, Charlie, right behind you, Gail. And if you state your name and before your question, please do that as well.
Hi, I'm Gail Dennis, and this is for all members of the panel. I'm just kind of curious, are the funding for these programs paid for out of Arlington County funding, federal funding, or private funding? And are these programs the equivalent of revolving funds where you put the money in and you pay out and the fund keeps going, or does this take outside funding?
I'll start, and some other panelists may want to add. In the case of SOC, we get federal support through the agencies that actually do contracts with us. And those contracts are the ones that we get through the Ability One program, and we are paying our employees with that. So it is a contract to do work, to provide services. We don't get any other federal funds. We do get funds through Fairfax, Alexandria, Arlington, and Virginia for rehabilitation services. And those are our two major fundings. The additional funding that we would get would be through selling our commercial services, like our printing. And then we do have charitable contributions.
In the last fiscal year, for the programs that I described to you earlier, 57% of the funds are local funds. So the majority of our funding does come from Arlington County. 27% is state funding. 6% is federal funding, and 10% is fees. So that's client fees, grants, and a variety of other miscellaneous things. So that's where the funding comes from to support the programs. And then some of our funding does go to SOC and other vendors to provide services for the people that we case manage.
Scott, a question over here with Scott.
Good evening. My name is Scott Brannon. I'd like to take the moment of time to introduce myself to the group of 100. I joined the Arlington County Fair, and I want to thank Cindy for mentioning my peer internship programs, a program that employs people with disabilities. We pay a small stipend. We have one at Whitlow's on Wilson, Restaurant 3, and also the Front Page Restaurant. So I appreciate everything Cindy is doing for my corporation, and I'd like to just say thank you for the other panel members also. And the food was good. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I have a question over here in the back, Lynn.
Hi, my name is Sonia Sirocco. I am actually asking a question for Ms. Chandler. I know you mentioned that a lot of your fundings, or that you're trying to increase your amount of business through your printing company. And I wanted to know if you guys had taken any opportunity to market towards the graphic design community that's really heavily based in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, because there are a lot of people out there that really do need those kinds of printing needs. So I wanted to know if you had taken any opportunity thus far to kind of market to a very specific printing operation.
Thank you. That's a really good idea. And we do some, but we can do a lot more. So thanks for the thought.
Any other questions? Oh, we have a couple. So one here and then one there. So Susan.
Hi, Susan Prokop, and I am an Arlington resident, but I also work for Paralyzed Veterans of America, so I was kind of curious about the Veterans Program. I'd like to know a little bit more about the wages and benefits component to your program, and I heard, good wages, good benefits. Do the folks who work for your programs, do they get to save for retirement and build up assets and savings so that they will be able to take care of themselves when they reach Social Security retirement age, whenever that may be?
I think Linda would be good to answer this, and then Abdullah, if you'll chime in as well. I think that would be to hear both sides.
Okay. As you probably know, because of the Ability One contract, where we have the most of our employees, those are on federal wage programs, and they also get additional funding to get benefits. And we do have health benefits and 401k benefits that are available for those employees. We have additional employees that we talked about that are placed in jobs in the community. So whatever that employer pays is an important part of that. For the people who work in our supported employment here in the building, they have a variety of incomes. Some of them are on Medicare. Some of them get rehabilitation funding because they live in group homes or have transportation funding. So they get other funding sources besides their salary. They are paid on productivity, and they are they have available to them also to purchase their health plan and to participate in our 401k plan. So they have options for benefits also.
And also, addition to Ms. Chandler's description, we also have a life insurance policy that exists with an SOC program, and it's a great blessing for employees like me, and also the 401k and health and welfare. And also we have a good benefit of accumulating leave time, sick time. These are very important in our lives and make a lot of difference, especially when you have doctor appointments and days you cannot make it to work and you want to take a week off in a year and go to the beach. And these are all benefits that SOC is providing for us, and we certainly thank them for it.
Hi, Jim Graham. Hi, Jim Graham. My question is, how do federal agencies decide between the authorized vendors? Is it a bid process, or how's that determined?
Yeah, the authority to determine who performs the work is actually delegated from the committee to NISH. But because we're talking now a lot of times mission critical kinds of opportunities and requirements, the federal customer does participate. We have, for those of you who do work with the federal government, there's FedBizOps, which is kind of an announcement that puts all the federal contracts out there. We have something very similar internally. So when we have a federal customer who gets to yes in terms of their acquisition strategy out of the pocket of all the different things that they can do, we post that, and the NPAs that think they have the capacity and capability raise their hand, and we do have a selection process, and now frequently that involves the customer in some way, and that usually is directed by the customer. So they might want to see proposals, they might want to have oral presentations, or they might not have time for any of that, and they tell us to take care of it and to show up on the door with the right one. So it works in a variety of ways, but the federal customer does have input into the selected vendor.
But the NPAs aren't out actively marketing their services to the agencies?
Well, yes and no. We do have, NISH is doing business development, and since that's in my title, I hope we're doing it really well, because if we're not, then that's not good. But our not-for-profits are doing the same thing, and they have organizations like this and board members that may work in the federal government, and they can carry that word back. So, from our perspective, we want to make sure everyone is spreading the word, and we have organizations that have real specific skill sets that they can offer to the federal customer. They can bid full and open. They cannot bid, generally speaking, the not-for-profit piece can't bid under small business because small business is for-profit, not-for-profit. But some organizations do have a for-profit arm and compete in the federal arena that way as well. So,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great question. I think that's actually, I think we'll call it a night. One question for a person. And Gail, if you want to come up and ask a question afterwards, we'll do that. Because Well, that would be great to bring to them directly, I think, then. I want to take this opportunity as we're getting ready to close to thank again SOC Enterprises, and everything you've done to help make this program come together. I think it's really enlightened us in the community, and we appreciate this opportunity. Thank you to all of our speakers.